Greetings to everyone who have joined us today for this FTP. I'm extremely sorry for this inconvenience that occurred at our end. There were some technical issues in our college today. Um, Nevertheless, respected guests, ladies, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to our 1 week online faculty development program on English language teaching in Digi World, Developing Global Citizenship, which begins today, that is June 27, 2022. I am Sanjana, Assistant Professor and the convener of today's lecture from the Department of Humanities, BIET, Hyderabad. It gives me immense pleasure to extend to you a very warm welcome on behalf of Bharat Institute of Engineering and Technology. It is with great honor and joy that I address you for the first time in my capacity as a person responsible for the program. The objective of this FTP is to enrich the knowledge of faculties through interaction with eminent personalities from the academics. The knowledge sharing will improve the teaching learning process to the students and benefit the society. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the presentations, please type them into the chat box in your Zoom panel or the YouTube live streaming chat box. We will bring them up at the end of this session. Now, I would like to introduce to you all the speaker of today's session. He has been active in academics for close to 3 decades, teaching and training at all levels of English language education, as well as English language teacher education. He's an avid reader, researcher, author, an eloquent and effective presenter, a passionate learning facilitator, a compassionate counselor, a dynamic leader who worked in Afghanistan, Vietnam on teacher education projects sponsored by the government of India. Donning multiple roles, Dr. Reddy is engaged in the creation and sharing of knowledge in the outside and inside the confines of the academia. He's resolute about replacing the present dialectics of teaching learning English with a more humane, inclusive, participatory learning experience. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Venkat Reddy. Sir, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sanjana, for introducing me to these distinguished participants of your 1-week-long FTP faculty development program. Can you hear me, Sanjana? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Everyone, can you hear me? Any of you who can at least say in the
Hello,
chat?
yes, sir, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Ms. Pooja, thank you. So firstly, I want to thank Sanjana and Ms. Pooja and Ms. Batul of the Department of English of Bharat Institute of Engineering and other distinguished participants, close to 100, who have taken their precious time participate in this faculty development program, which has been, etched on a very broad theme of ELT in Digi world, digital world. How we can, the question is how we've got to get up to use these digital facilities. One of the topics that I've been given is innovative English language development in young learners. Young learners, I asked as to how you pick these young learners, and Batul had given me an idea. Otherwise, I was thinking that since it's an engineering college, this topic was to cater to the youth culture, particularly those who learn things related to engineering and also the kind of English that is taught in these engineering colleges. I have fixed my presentation. Now, what is in, because there is very little time, I can see that I have so many other things, lining up. That's why what's in who are learners, tap. How do we tap from young and then becoming adolescents and becoming adult learners, online and media for modes of delivery, face-to-face and online, which one facilitates a better learning outcomes. And I also want to discuss, in fact, at length, but due to time, I have to compress it. Innovation is to be understood in terms of, I juxtapose these two in order to get a better view of what this uh, invention in a way never existed before. It could be a practice.
Good morning, participants. We assume that there has been a network problem from the speaker's side. The speaker is trying again. I would like to request you all to please wait patiently. Within a few seconds, the speaker will join back. Sorry for the trouble. Thank you.
My apologies to you because there is some technical problem here as well at my side from my side as well. So I think I keep appear and disappear as a result of weak internet signal that is streaming over here. So what I want to understand or explain this concept of innovation you by juxtaposing it with invention. And invention, as I say, is creating something new. It could be a process or a practice or a device. On the other hand, innovation is a change or changes made to an existing process, an existing practice, or an existing device. For example, when I try to apply the knowledge of invention and innovation to English language education, is that we are going to bring changes to the way we practice teaching of English in order to see better language outcomes. Therefore, innovation is change or changes that are brought into bear upon something which is already in existence. What is that already in existence? The very practice of ELT, English language teaching. We are going to see for better learning outcomes what innovative methods will have to be used. You can see our invention, an old mobile phone, let's say ELT. Innovation, you can also see a smartphone, the sort of changes that have been brought in order to make it have better features for better uses that we can put to a mobile phone. Now, who are young learners? When I was young, people say, what does it mean? Young learners are usually children. Now, where do I pitch the youngness for this presentation? Given the context, I understand that it's the children between the age group of 10 and 15 years for this particular purpose. And young learners have short memory span. So what are the characteristics of these young learners? The characteristics of these young learners are they have a very short memory span and they cannot move from abstract to concrete in the sense that they can only see things and understand, they can only hear things and understand, they can only feel the things and understand, but they do not have that maturity of thinking in abstract terms. So therefore, another important point to be understood is that learning has to be contextualized because they cannot operate in abstraction. So the learning has to be very properly contextualized. And for them to learn, repetition is an important precondition for them to learn. Now, what are young cultures? Young learners have their own young cultures. What do I mean by young cultures? I mean that what do they actually do daily basis? And what are their leisure time activities? What are the things that they occupy their free time? These are the things that I would like to discuss here under young cultures, because using all this, we will build a narrative where their learning outcomes could be better. Firstly, we have to understand the free time activities of the young learners. How do they spend their leisure time? Now, what are the free time activities of young learners? Young learners mostly occupy their free time with media. For instance, children of this generation spend a lot of their free time listening to songs, watching films, ads, sports, comedy shows, and playing digital games on the mobile devices such as phones, tabs, and laptops. And they're also found to be least interested in serious stuff such as literature, novels, poetry, stories, and other very high-cultured narratives. Therefore, it's advisable to run the same activities as sites to develop language as well as to improve the fluency. That's the idea. Develop as well as to improve their fluency. We will have to depend on the activities in which they occupy all their free time and leisure time. That's the thesis for this presentation. Now, what are the learning resources that we are pitching for this presentation? One, learning resources could be learning materials. It could be the content based on which teachers can prepare, teachers can write learning activities. One, pop songs. Pop is a short form for popular songs. News that they watch or that they read on the mobile devices. Ads that they watch or read. Stand-up comedy shows, you could have seen how they have proliferated of late. Podcasts of jokes, podcasts of the activities related to sports, related to entertainment, sports commentaries, TED Talks, not very serious TED Talks, but the talks, given by sports personalities, given by film personalities. I guess these youngsters, have a lot of inkling to watch and inkling to also to hear, and others which generally are things that are related to entertainment, for instance, props of films, and before the films are released, they are also introduced in terms of some introductions. These things could be used as learning resources for developing language and fluency. Now, what sort of delivery mechanism is required for better learning outcomes, which means what methodology has to be followed? And face-to-face learning is what we have been doing so far. And most of our teaching is classroom-based and is face-to-face learning. Till the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted our face-to-face learning, we did not understand the power of technology. But even now, mostly the conventional way of communicating in the classroom, communicating language development activities steeped in face-to-face learning. Online learning, another mechanism, delivery mechanism that we have not completely learned, but we understand what it looks like. Flipped learning, blended learning, mobile assisted or mobile based learning activities. The online learning, flipped learning, blended learning, mobile assisted and other based learning there are two reasons for their emergence. One, COVID-19 lockdown has put locks on all educational institutions. Therefore, we had to find an alternative. That's how we found solace, and we found another mechanism of reaching our learners is online learning. But now, after we have opened our colleges, opened our schools for face-to-face learning, and we also have to check whether we can still go on with online learning, go on with flipped learning, blended learning, etc. And what are the advantages of opting for these alternative modes of communication communicating with our young learners? Now, what are the problems? What is a face-to-face learning? Firstly, this is the F2F learning, face-to-face learning. You can also see the teacher. This usually happens across the country. The teacher is seen, teacher is caged, learners are seen. They're also caged between the bench and the table, and bench on which they have sat. Um, in here, you could also see that it's all teacher-dominated class, but today's learners are more active because their attention span is so slow, and we have to now talk about alternative modes. Now, what are the problems of this classroom? Has become monotonous. Classroom practice, face-to-face learning has become monotonous, which means boring because the same teacher, same face, every day, same voice. To not suitable for a heterogeneous class. Indian classrooms today are no longer Indian classrooms are completely heterogeneous. What does it mean? We have students of both the gender congregating under the same roof, and each learner also brings his own society, his own ideology, his own belief system into the classrooms, and we can't have a homogeneous group in the classroom. Psychology are different, cultures are different, learning styles are different, and teacher is unable to provide different styles of learning at the same time in the face-to-face mode. So heterogeneous class can't accommodate the different learning styles of the learners in the face-to-face mode, and variety, which is very important for learning, is absent in the face-to-face mode, and it is highly inflexible. It's not flexible. You could see the classroom, it doesn't facilitate any interaction among the learners, interaction, learner to interaction, learner-teacher interaction is impossible when you have such a classroom in the face-to-face mode. Therefore, we have to find innovative methods, innovative modes of conducting our learning. Now, what are the alternatives to this? To kill monotony, to usher in variety, to also bring in exciting activities into the classroom. So we have to find the methods of teaching, modes of delivery and communicating with our young learners, which are more engaging, which are very flexible, which provides learner autonomy, and which also provides different types of learning materials at the same time, which is impossible in the face-to-face mode of learning, and also learn at their own pace, time and place. The learners don't have to, come to college at 9 o'clock and be there till 5 to learn. And we need to find an alternative mode where learners don't have to move and they can learn at their own pace and at their own time and place. What are those alternatives that we have to replace the face-to-face mode of learning for better, for speed of learning as well as for more productive learning outcomes? Online learning. Now, online learning, in fact, I wanted to make this class very much, my presentation, interactive, but due to time constraint, and I just have to finish this. Online learning, the COVID-19 pandemic has made us grasp full potential of the online learning. And in the pre-pandemic time, online learning was used merely to rouse the interest, curiosity of the learner, and to add excitement to used online facilities. And in the pre-pandemic times, it's not that we did not use technology. When we say that F2 face-to-face mode of teaching breeds in contempt and breeds in boredom and doesn't facilitate variety and doesn't have the place for different types of learning materials and doesn't have place for learners to learn in different styles. So that's very situation critical, and we need to find an alternative, and that alternative we found in technology, use of technology. And use of technology, there are technology enabled classrooms we did have even before the pandemic, and we appended technology, we supplemented technology in our classes, and it means that instead of depending on teachers' voice for all activities, the help of technology we have certainly taken. And what sort of technology did we use before the pandemic? We were present as teachers, but we took the help of technology. Teachers could use PowerPoint slides to accompany classroom lectures. Teachers used podcasts in class to improve students' listening skills. Many of you must have also used YouTube to conduct listening classes, and played a movie in the classroom to develop students' speaking skills, played a movie clip. You could have asked them to write down notes, and using notes, you could have conducted role plays, could encourage students to make notes on digital devices, such as, instead of paper and pen. And while listening to classroom lectures, many could have used notes on their mobile phone, or could have used it to take a picture of the notes that you could have written on the board or somewhere, or could have tested students' reading comprehension, immediately after giving a reading task. You could have flashed all the tasks, multiple choice questions to on their WhatsApp group, and they could have conducted assessment based on that. But that cannot be called online learning. We could say that we only drew material from online sources and used our listening classes, or used certain actions, some certain clips where audio was muted and students were asked to guess. And that's not online learning. That's merely technology enabled learning. But what's online learning? Flipped learning is, we'll come back to flipped learning a little later. And let's see, online learning is, as a teachers, we are convinced that now more than ever, we are convinced that the technology has the potential to provide efficient and effective opportunities to engage learners and promote student learning. And we are also convinced that the COVID-19 has helped us in learning several things. The use of technology in the ESL classroom was restricted mostly to serve pedagogic purposes, such as creating student interest, arousing their curiosity, providing fun, and generating higher level of motivation. So therefore, these elements are very successfully used, and most of us have witnessed how technology can be used to reduce or even remove the the time-related spatial resources constraints of face-to-face communication. And now using technology, we know that it can deliver instructional opportunities outside the four walls of the classroom. It can extend the technology, particularly the internet-based communication, can extend learning events beyond classroom resources, enable quicker access to numerous varieties and types of learning resources, and it can also ensure that learning takes place anytime, convenient for students, and remains accessible to all the learners at the same time. Technology can be used to address the deficits of, as well as to overcome the obstacles posed by face-to-face classroom and strengthen the instructional process to make learning meaningful for all learners. And what's online learning? Having heard this, that we have to ask and answer this question. And online learning means a class conducted over the internet. Hello? Hello? Hello, everyone. Can you hear me now? I'm using my mobile network. Maybe as a result, you are running into issues.
Hello, sir. Yeah, we are able to hear you.
Is not able to hear me?
We are able to hear you.
All right. All right. Did you get to see my presentation? Do you?
Yes, yes, yes. Right now we can see the last slide we could not, but currently
Oh, it's okay right
yeah,
now,
it's okay.
right?
It's visible right now.
Okay. All right. Fine then. Yeah. All right. Now, online learning is a class conducted over the internet in a virtual classroom by using, one example of online classroom. I'm sure some of you could have prepared some material to make MOOCs, massive open online courses, which are, featured on our SWAYAM platform, LMS, of the Government of India, Ministry of Education. Examples for learning experience that are completely online, for example, are MOOC courses where classes are run solely on an LMS, an online platform without any element of real time or face-to-face instruction. In these courses, all content is made available online. Classes are delivered exclusively via video conferencing. Students participate in online activities and submit everything online, unlike the kind of online courses that we had earlier. And SWAYAM platform of the Government of India featured MOOC courses, and those MOOC courses are based on video conferencing, and students would also, apart from learning online, would also submit their assignments. They could also go back to the same platform, MOOC platform, SWAYAM platform, and at their own pace, they could revise the material that they could have missed out or they could not understand. And that's how the online teaching could also help the learners, particularly younger learners, to revisit the sites and reread and learn the things. Another delivery mechanism which is fast occupying our spaces is blended learning. What is blended learning? Blend, as you can see, is a combination of offline, which means combination of offline, and offline, which means face-to-face, or traditional learning, and online learning in a way that each complements the other. Blend, mix of both face-to-face and internet-based online learning. And here, teacher dependency is reduced, but teacher will have to work extra time to make, in order to prepare online activities which the learners could use, in their, could effortlessly use outside the classroom. They can also use full potential of the internet-based key content. That's why it is very much now in demand, and this is an opportunity for learners also to improve their learning, because they can learn at their own pace and at their own pace and time. So due to its temporal, spatial, and resource constraints, the classroom inhibits deliberations, sustained conversations, deep engagement, and this will all now, the blend of both the offline and online mode facilitate learner autonomy by designing effective learner engagement. Though blended learning requires the integration of technology delivered outside classroom instruction with face-to-face instruction, for it to be successful, the online learning events must be thoughtfully designed to deliver high levels of flexibility that encourage learners to customize their learning experience, which are in tune with the learner engagements. An example of blended learning class, an example of this blended learning, a multimodal, I can give you of this, an example. For example, a teacher will prepare a repository of multimodal, which means voice, and it could be audiovisual, plus very dynamic audiovisual repository of digital resources related to a lesson that will be taught later in class. Teacher will have to prepare them. Where a teacher is about to teach language learning functions such as introduction, because we follow functional approach. In case you're following it, you'll have to, one of the functions to be taught to our learners is introduction, introducing oneself, introducing the other. Before you discuss in the class, we prepare a lot of multimodal material, and that multimodal material will be made available in a platform such as padlet.com, and we use that as a pre-learning task, which learners, these e-content of multimodal will be songs, could be videos, blogs, Wikipedia, ads, cartoons, TED Talks, news stories, audio narratives, film clips, and so on, which must have something to do with a language function of introduction. They're uploaded and put on the padlet.com and inform the learners in advance that this is their pre-learning task, and we ask the learners to visit the site and read or learn the topic related to introduction, self-introduction, or introducing the other. Introduction as a larger concept, larger topic, related videos, related songs, related blogs, related material on the Wikipedia, related advertisements, related cartoons, and other things are all put at one place where learners access using internet at their own space and time, and they also respond what they read as pre-learning tasks in the form of mind mapping. There are mind mapping tasks, in a site such as Coggle.it. They would respond to what they could have, one student who liked songs could have listened to songs, and other student who could have liked films could have watched some film clips, and other student who could have, who could have gone through some audio stories could have also responded in the form of mind mapping, responding to mind mapping tasks that are posted at Google.it. And this is the online activities related to learning to introduce oneself, learning to introduce the other, right? And the rest of the activities in the class, for example, the discussion will be furthered in the face-to-face class. Now you could see here, learners are encouraged to use online facilities, and here teachers have to really work when a collection of these things are put on one platform, Padlet.com. Our learners visit that, read or watch or listen to, and having done free learning tasks, they would also give a mind map, and that is shared on Google.it. And when they come back on the next day to the class, and in the class, with the help of the teacher, learning tasks would be conducted, and pair work or group work will be initiated to learn. So this is a blend of both the face-to-face and internet. I think these are some of the quite innovative digital way of engaging learner to learn language. And another task, another delivery mechanism is flipped learning. What is this flipped learning? Flipping means making something topsy-turvy. Flip in the traditional style of instruction, teachers present a lesson to students in the class, then assign classwork or homework. That's how generally we understand our face-to-face mode. Instead of that, so first teacher teaches. Based on the teacher's teaching, learners are given certain learning tasks. Either they do it in the classroom or take home and do it. Instead, the very definition of flipped classroom is the reverse of this traditional method. So this will also work very well, because we will also see here learners being given a lot of freedom. Learners would learn, at their own pace, and they would do a lot of work at home. That's called before teacher teaches anything, and learners learn it beforehand and come back to class. So the homework is what they do, what the classwork they do at home, and what they do at home, they come back to do in the class. That's how we understand these things to be flipped learning. It's the reverse of the traditional method, and the reading part they do, or the listening part, the input part they do at home or outside the classroom is a better expression. And when they come to class, they will all together, with the help of teacher facilitator, they would take on the learning tasks. Learners read a text, watch a video at home upon the instruction of the teacher, and come back to class to do the learning task. Because this is an exciting, another mode of communicating in the classroom for language development. And this, because it also fosters active learning, and it doesn't ask learners to depend always on the teacher. And so what has been, learners have a choice here. The choice is what I want to emphasize, this choice, because in the traditional classroom face-to-face mode of communication, learners do not have any choice. One, choice of material, because some people like listen and learn, and some people like watch and learn, and some people actually experience and learn. And this variety could not be presented in our face-to-face mode, and one textbook, and you go on reading the textbook and one lesson and for everybody, one type of exercises for everybody, one type of learning for everyone in a class which is filled with heterogeneity. So to break that heterogeneity, to be able to cater to the learning styles of learning needs and learning styles of learners, I think flipped learning and computer-based blended learning are important and poised to be very productive ways of communicating language development, and that will also encourage them to reflect on their learning, whereas in classroom learning it's not possible because of the monotonous way of conducting learning. And these alternative modes of communication will produce all that is required for better learning outcomes. I think that so I'm here. Apart from that, what I would like also to say is that we can use, even in our face-to-face mode classrooms, songs which are very exciting. Not only they arouse interest, not only they make classes more filled with jingles and excitement, but they also have learning. They can also contribute to better learning, because Shishurveti, Pashurveti, Veti, Ganarasam, Panihi. This is the third important aspect that I'm bringing in for better learning outcomes in the Digi world, is to depend on YouTube and other sites where there are songs and music that we can use, because songs are everywhere. We have songs for weddings, and there are songs in the temples and songs in public meetings, but I do not know why we don't have songs in the classroom. Why not in classes? So let's all pitch for songs in the classroom, because they create interest, they motivate learning, allow us make use of digital platforms such as YouTube, and therefore we should all also bring in songs into the classroom. Another reason why we should bring songs into the classroom is that young learners, free time activity, one of the things that occupy their imagination or during their leisure time, are songs. Therefore, songs will not defeat an English teacher, and in fact, they strengthen the learning outcomes. Using songs to teach young learners, and songs are engaging, they have element of enjoyment, and songs improve listening skills and pronunciation, because that language used in the songs is authentic and natural, unlike the language used by second language teachers. And when you hear songs, you see songs being used in a natural way, authentic language, and learners can learn vocabulary and many other things, and the exercises that could be conducted in our classes where songs become learning materials, gap filling exercises, expansion of contracted forms, because it's a natural way, contracted speech. I am coming to class, he is not coming to class, instead of saying in a very artificial way, speaking like a notebook, speaking like a grammar book. And what's the natural way is to use contractions. And when you hear songs, you find a lot of natural speech in them, and we can have contracted utterances could be taken and ask the learners to expand them, marking stress on words and intonation, on utterances. Word order could be also SPO, word order in English, and we can jumble and ask learners to do it. Interpretations, having listened to the song, we could also engage our learners to go into the interpretation of the narrative that's there in the songs. And we could also teach, because these songs are poetry, they have a lot of figures of speech, similes, metaphors, and others could also be taught, besides making our learners have a first-hand experience with the idiomatic expressions. I wanted to actually, play this song 500 miles, having played the song, and I would also give present a worksheet like this way. This is one of the, favorite way of using songs by teachers who prefer using songs. This is all gap fillers and certain words are left out. Having listened to the song, learners would be asked to fill in these gaps as learning exercises. Now, what did I do so far? Although we started late, we started late because of technical problems and problems that the organizers had, and also problems that I faced halfway as my internet also got off. But we tried to be in tune with the major theme of this FDP of using internet sources, digital sources in ELT. And one of the topics that I've taken up to inaugurate this session is to find innovative delivery mechanism. Also, to be in tune with the available technology and how we can exploit technologies for better language outcomes. We contrasted the use of online resources for language learning with the face-to-face mode, and we said that unlike face-to-face mode, the use of certain modes of delivery, such as online teaching, such as completely online teaching in a virtual mode, plus the blended learning mode and flipped learning mode, would give more emphasis to the learners, and teachers also have work extra mile in order to prepare that repository of input resources based on which the learners, using which the learners do their part as independent learners outside the classroom and come back to continue their learning in the classroom, in the blended learning, in the time that is available for us in this manner. And that's all I have to say. I want to thank you for being there patiently despite the disturbances that have occurred in the course of my presentation. Thank you very much. Over to the organizers.
Thank you very much, sir, for the wonderful session. I hope that this session was really helpful to the rest of our participants here, because anyway, interactive English is really important these days when we are teaching the students in the class, and I hope we can make the best out of it. Now, thank you once again, sir. For the participants, we are now open to the question and answer round. If the participants have any queries, they may write it down in the chat box and we shall get back to you.
If any participant wants to ask something, please raise your hand so that I can unmute accordingly.
Sir, one of the participants has raised the suggestion. She would like to know if you could suggest some activities using Hindi Bollywood songs to teach vocabulary, sir. Dr. Venkat? So the participants are curious.
Yeah, I know, but you have, thank you very much. You've unmuted now. I see this question, Saumita Sarkare has asked suggestion, some activities using Hindi Bollywood songs to teach vocabulary. Bollywood songs is not I was talking about. In an English class, I was talking, Saumita, I think I mistook me when I said songs to talk about Bollywood songs. I was talking about pop songs, English pop songs which use authentic language. Samita? If there is a, one of the activities, even in Bollywood songs at a higher level, you could also play and ask them to paraphrase. Tell the story about what the songs are. Suggest some activities to learn and enhance the vocabulary of the students. This Vijay, Borige Vijay asked this question. I like it. I like all the questions, of course, because here this vocabulary has to be very clearly and closely knitted with the language function, Vijay. We can't, teach vocabulary separately from communication. So where do you use it? So that context built and function driven vocabulary is one of the important things that should be kept in mind instead of learning vocabulary in isolation. Yes, Samita, you can ask the students. That's what I said. At a higher level, you can use Bollywood songs and ask them to, ask the learners to translate it, or you can ask them to tell the narrative that is hidden in the songs. I think Navodita Bhatt has a very interesting question. She says it's not a question, but I'm worried about the acceptance of students' needs. Navodita, here what we are trying to say is that we are also used to one monotonous way of conducting learning in the class, that is the textbook. And here, not just one textbook, there are many textbooks when we use blended learning, and theme is the same, but the approach to theme is multiple. Some people, you could see the same theme in songs, same theme in reading material, same theme in film clips, same theme, for example, introduction. All right. So they are all put at one place. Padlet.com, for example, one such site, and the learners will have access to that, and they would read or listen to or watch and come back to class for a discussion. That's the idea, Navodita. Yes, I'm sure there are problems, but those problems will have to be surmounted. One of my students who says, Pratyusha says, I still remember I Love You song that was there. Hello, what's happening? She's in innovation ELT class while I was in EFL University. I was practicing this from 2020. The activity helped me a lot during the online classes. Thank you very much for introducing this to me. That's great, Pratisha. I am very happy to learn that what we do in the class will also work in real-time learning.
Sir, it would be really an honor for all of us to know what that activity actually was, because I hope that others could also benefit out of it.
Yeah, what we did was actually wanted to, give a a semblance of how these songs could work in the classroom by playing it and conducting certain activities. One activity I've shown you already that you play it and use the learning task could be shared on the WhatsApp or could be shared physically, where certain gaps are left in the song and some words are left in the song, and those fill in the gaps could be done by the learners after listening to the songs. Secondly, every song also has its own narrative, right? So those narrative could be given in the form of a story to the class, or it could be enacted. Not in one class, in one or two, three classes, it could be several students become characters of the song, and they also write dialogues. It's not that dialogues are there in the song. They could get the context, write dialogues and enact. These are some of the things. Navodita, I think, has one more question. It's not a question worried about the acceptance of needs and modifications in teaching that. How far will we go with this pattern as it's challenging for the teachers in upcoming time? It's no doubt challenging, Navodita. And we also have to, it's a collaborative activity. I think sometime back when I gave innovative in ELT during the last round of FDP for the same college, I did a presentation on innovation in ELT. There I meant, this is not the teacher's job alone. It's a cooperative activity. We are one of the spokes in the wheel of learning, where other spokes being management as well, parents as well, government, textbook, classroom, the psychology of the classroom, and the topography of the architecture of the classroom. They all have a very positive bearing on the way we conduct our learning activities. That's right.
Pardon, dear participants. We can only take one more question further because of the time constraints we are working on. I request you all to please put your feedbacks on the feedback form that the link has been shared in the group already. And just one more question if anybody wants to.
Yeah, Navodita, I think, has a very interesting, very profound questions indeed. Navodita, I guess that's not a problem if they eat while having a class in future. That's not a problem for us here, at least in the way we conduct our class. Yeah, but I don't think, unless we have, very, it's not just the teacher's idea that learning happens. Learning happens as a result of, cooperation of many other agencies. Navodita, management, for example, psychologists, counseling, parents, they take responsibility. They all are seen in the teacher's face.
All right then, if those were the last questions that we had so far. Thank you, Dr. Venkat, for sharing your ideas with us, finding time in spite of your multifarious activities. I thank all the participants for being a part of the session. Kindly make sure that you fill the feedback form that is being shared in the group, and we'll see you all again tomorrow. Thank you all.